Okay, now that we have our skateboarder dude character modeled and texture coordinates created, textures made and applied, and everything, now it's time to rig our character for animation. And we're going to be using a fairly new rigging system called Character Animation Toolkit in 3ds Max. CAT for short. And the way that we access CAT is to go to our Create tab, and then we go over to our Helpers button here, and then in the drop down, currently labeled Standard, we choose CAT Objects. Now we have to click on the CAT Parent button in order to choose a preset CAT rig. Now there's a bunch of them in here, and I'm not going to go over these right now because it would just be a waste of your time. You can play around with these on your own, but there's a variety of them in here, and in the future in other classes, more advanced classes, you may want to use one of these to create a character of your own that is non-humanoid perhaps. But for now we're going to be using the base human. Okay, base human. Now, first, before I actually do that, I need to, let's just get out of here for just a moment. First, before I do that, what I need to do is get him all ready and set up here. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that it's set for see-through in the display panel here. So now he's set to see-through. We'll go into shaded and set him up for transparency. So that way, when we apply our cat rig, we'll be able to see the cat rig inside of our character. You'll understand what a cat rig is in just a little bit, or actually it's just a rigging system that allows us to animate. And let me go ahead and freeze our character right now, so that, so freeze selection, there we go. Now let me explain what a rigging system does for animation. The rigging system is like a bone structure, so to speak. It's not really like bones exactly, but it will seem like it. It's a bone structure that, along with a modifier called a skin modifier, links our character to this bone system, and the bone system is what actually animates. The skin modifier links our bone system to our character's vertices specifically, and each bone has its own set of vertices and so forth. And we adjust those vertices sometimes to make sure that there aren't any strange abnormalities in our character after we apply an animation. But that's basically what it's all about. You have to rig your character with a bone system, and then you skin it using a skin modifier in this case, that creates a sort of a conduit between our character mesh and the bone system. All right, so let's go ahead and get busy with CAT. So once again, we'll go back to the Create tab here, click on CAT Parent, and I'm going to go into Perspective View here because, believe it or not, Perspective View is the best view to do this in. Okay, and all you do is select the base human. I have my character centered in the world here. It's on the ground. That's important that you make sure that your character is right flat on the ground and centered in the world. And I just get this base human cat rig, and I click in the middle of the world here and pull up until the pelvis, focusing on the pelvis area, until the pelvis is in the proper position, right in the hips area where the legs would bend, okay, where the legs would bend at the hips initially. So that's what we want to do for right now. Then we're going to get our Move tool, select the Move tool right away so we don't forget, and make sure that our base object is selected here, which is our cat rig base, and make sure that's set to 0 on the x-axis so that it lines up perfectly with our character on the x-axis. Now on the y-axis, or in other words from the side view, we may want to adjust that a little bit and move that base forward or backward or whatever, and just kind of leave it at that. There we go. So we'll do that. And then we're going to adjust our character's bones to fit our, or rather our rigging system here to fit our character. All right. So let's go ahead and get busy with that. The first thing we want to start with, think of the pelvis as sort of like the center of mass, and we're going to be working downwards and then upwards and outwards, you know, to do this stuff. So that's kind of the workflow for this. So let's start by adjusting the legs here and making sure that they're pretty much in the right position. We want to make sure that the legs are centered down the middle of the character, that the pelvis is the right size. So maybe we should just start with the pelvis. And so what we'll do now, in order to work with the parts of the character, just like with any other object in 3ds Max, we're going to go to the Modify tab. When we have an object selected like the pelvis here, okay, we can then adjust it. You know, it knows which ones it's selected. Oh, by the way, before I forget, what we want to do here is name our, instead of it being base human, which is the default name for this thing, we're going to name it in the cat parameters here. We're going to call it skateboarder underscore. And what that will do is, when we do that, and we go and we select another object, look what it does. Skateboarder underscore left calf. Skateboarder underscore left thigh. If you burn for the right thigh, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so that way we can identify each one of our parts really easy. Now, that's, you know, obviously when that would really matter is if you have multiple rigs in your scene with different characters and stuff. But it's a good habit to get into, as I've mentioned many times in the past, to make sure that things are named. All right, so we got our pelvis here, and the way that we're going to be scaling things is mostly going to be in this parameters area right here. And so we're going to scale the height of our pelvis just a little bit, okay? And we'll scale the width just a little bit as well. Let's turn them to the side here, and yeah, I think it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to scale the length as well, which is going that direction. And I'm thinking now, perhaps it's even a good idea to move the pelvis a little bit more centered in our character, okay? By doing that, we'll be able to, I think I could probably almost put that, see what happens if I put that at 0. That's way too far forward. We don't want it that far forward. So let's just center it visually inside of our character. All right. Okay, now there's a bunch of different things we're going to be adjusting here, and the basic way that we do this is we want to make sure that the legs are fitting inside of our character properly, centered in you know, right down the middle of the leg as much as possible. And you'll notice that the way that this is done is that there's a little bit of a, you go with this particular shin bone, if you want to call it this, calf bone, if you will, helps to move not only the upper part of the calf but the lower part of the thigh bone. We also want to scale these to fit the character a little bit better. As far as the width, okay, and depth as well. And the reason for that is because when we skin our character, the skin modifier is going to create what is called envelopes, and these envelopes affect the vertices specifically. Now we want to kind of get down to our foot here and get it into position, make sure that it's you know, sitting in there in the right position. It should probably be a little bit wider than it is, okay? And so let's go ahead and do that. Let's get the foot widened a little bit, so we're going to go with the width, because this is a fairly wide foot. We don't need to fill the entire volume of the leg, or this might actually be a little bit more than it needs to be. So I'm going to bring the depth down just a little bit with that thigh, but about 2/3, somewhere around that. And the same thing with the foot here. We're going to add a digit on the end of our foot here, and the way that you do that is by just selecting the digit here and typing 1 in there, and that puts that digit in there. We'll be able to scale these a little bit as well. So if we want to scale the height of our foot, we could do that. Fill up that volume a little bit, and maybe the depth of the toe as well. Okay. We also need to position this foot a little bit up higher, because the idea here is that, and maybe rotate it a little bit. And we'll leave that part alone. I think that's all right. Rotation's good. But this is where it's going to bend. It's going to bend here. That's like the ball of the foot right there. This is about where the ankle is supposed to be. So what we'll do is we'll just move this up just a little bit so that the ankle is there, and then we'll rotate that foot down. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Forgot about that. Okay, so just leave it alone. Leave it there for now. That should be fine. It should bend okay right in this area. That's about where the ankle would be. Okay, and once we have our whole leg and foot and everything section all done, this is one of the neatest things about this, is that we can click on any of these bones here, select the, you know, that looks like that got rotated a little funny. Let me take a look at this in the front view. No, I guess it's all right. Probably just my angle. All right, we can select any bone in the leg or this area right here. Click on Copy Limb Settings, and then go over to and select one of the bones on the opposite leg and paste. And then we have that all done on that side, so we don't have to do double duty, which would be probably uneven anyway. So that makes it really easy for that. We'll do that kind of thing throughout the whole process here. Now we've got we'll start working our way up from the pelvis down and out towards the arms and so forth and up the head. So now what we need to do is adjust our pelvis. And there's a couple of ways we can do this. Our spine columns here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to sort of get these guys in position so that they follow roughly the direction of the back. And our character's pretty upright here. He doesn't have a big lumbar thing going on here. So we don't have to do a lot of adjustment. We're just going to pretty much get this in here so that the shoulders are going to be roughly in position. And then what I'll do is I'll just select this part right here, the chest area, and with the move tool, literally just move it up and in position here. And I'm going to look in the top, in this front view here, sort of like an pull from the front, and make sure that the rotation area of our shoulder right here is going to be right where the shoulder should rotate and bend. Okay. And that looks pretty good. I want to make sure it's going to go right down the middle of the arm. So let's finish working on the spine. Just kind of got that roughly in position there. I need to rotate it forward probably just a little bit. Rotate that chest a little bit forward, and then maybe move it back so it has a little bit better, more natural, because he is kind of slouching forward just a little bit there. And we can adjust the width of these to help with the envelopes also. And you'll see what I mean when it comes time to deal with the envelopes. Hopefully we won't have too many adjustments to make. So what we're going to do with that is we're just going to adjust these. That's for like the width. Okay, so let's do all of these first. Do the width, because it's on the x-axis is what we're dealing with. See, it's going along the x-axis there. And this one needs to be a little bit wider than the others, just simply because the shirt is sort of flaring out there. And then we'll adjust them this direction as well. So that's on the Y. Oops, sorry, no. Undo. I was right. The Y. I wasn't thinking there. So on the Y, and just to fill that chest volume a little bit. And that will help us a little bit with our envelopes. Less adjustment, hopefully. All right. So now let's get the arms in position. We'll do the head last. That should work out okay. I think the neck is in probably pretty good shape there as far as the positioning of it. So what we're going to do is move this clavicle back a little bit so it's fitting a little bit more naturally in the character. We want to move the shoulder so that it's centered in that shoulder area of the arm. Okay. And now what I can do is I can simply, and I want you to, now is the time when we want to adjust our reference coordinate system so that it's set to local, because we're going to be working on this arm and hand area a bit, and that's going to be a little bit, strange and hard to adjust if we have it set to view. So I'm going to set the rotate and the move tool to local. So we got rotate, and we have our select and move, select and rotate, and I'm going to leave the scale alone because we typically scale things over here anyway. So we'll just move that. All right, now what I can do is I can simply grab our planes here for our gizmo, and I can move this arm into position. See how that works? Put it right down the center of the arm here. Just a little bit. There we go. Just trying to get it sort of centered in there. Alright. And then I can take the hand and do kind of the same thing. Whoops, should have done that first. Move this. Oh my goodness. That was a mistake. I didn't mean to do that. There we go. Move this back down. And over. I want to make sure that this is right in that elbow area. And we can tell real easy because I made that elbow for our character. And now I should be able to move this up and into position here. One of the problems here is that needs to happen is I've got to rotate this. Let's rotate that hand so that it's facing the right direction. That's really what the issue is right now. I should have thought of that before I started moving it around. I want to make sure that it's rotated in the right angle along with the arm. There we go. Now we should be able to move our arm into position. There we go. That's better. Right about where the wrist would be. Okay. And then take this, move this in a little bit. Move this out this way a little bit. And a little bit more. Get them right down the middle of the arm. It's not looking too bad right now. Pretty good. Looks like it's going to rotate right in the right spot here. I might move this. I should have done that first. That's alright. We'll rotate this down a little bit. Just a little bit. There we go. And then I just need to adjust this a little. That hand back into position. There. That's going more down the middle of the arm, and it's going to be right where it's supposed to rotate, and that's what we're after. We have to be pretty careful with this stuff. It's easier now to get it right than it is to try to make adjustments later on. That can be really a problem. It's just like most things in these processes, that we end up one thing is dependent on another, and once we move on to the next thing, it's kind of too late. We'll have to backtrack and redo stuff, and we don't want to redo stuff, do we? No, we do not. So I'm going to scale this over here. So I'm going to scale the width of the hand so that it's wide enough so that we can have some fingers. I think the length of this arm is just a little too long. So I'm going to adjust the length of it just a little bit. There we go. So that it's going to bend at the wrist and not in the middle of the hand. That's going to be a little bit better, maybe even a little bit less. There we go. Now we're talking. All right, so let's move that a little bit over this way. There we go. Not bad. It might be just a little too wide, so let's bring the width down just a little bit. You want it to be wide enough for the finger part. All right, now what we can do here is we're going to make 2 fingers instead of a thumb and 3 fingers, and one of the fingers will be the thumb, and that's what num digits means. So we're going to select this, and the reason why we're going to do that is because we're not really going to do anything in our animation with the hand as far as making it the fingers wiggle or anything like that. He's not going to be playing piano or anything like that. So we really can get by with just simply one big finger with some digits, or rather sections. So we're just going to go with 2 here. And what that does is it goes ahead and puts these big old honking fingers on here that we have to adjust. So the first thing to do is to scale these down a bit. Okay, so we'll adjust the width of these. Whoops, undo, sorry. There we go. Select these guys. And scale that. Whoops, I guess we can't. Okay, let's start there. And just scale this down. There we go. And then turn it around this way, and maybe adjust the depth of it just a little bit to make it a little bit bigger so that it fits the thumb a little bit better. All right. And then we can adjust the length as well of the whole thing. by doing this. There we go. So now we can get yeah, we might have to do the, and it's got 3 bones in here for each one of these, so that we can actually create the fingers bending, okay? But that's all we really need to do, is just have them bend slightly, so that they don't have their fingers splayed out, looking kind of odd. So for now, we're just going to select this last segment right here, this first segment, I should say, and I'm going to rotate that. So I want you to notice we have 1, 2, 3 segments. This one segment is really, really short, and that's the reason why it looks kind of wrong. I just realized that it doesn't scale the whole thing. I just forgot about that. So we're going to scale these up, and what we're creating are the different joints in the thumb. Scale this up a little bit, or down rather, so it's a little shorter. And so every place where there's like zoom in a little bit tighter, every place where there's a little bit of a separation between these different segments, that's where the knuckles would be. So let's select this one, scale that so that it comes to the end of the thumb, basically. Okay, good. And select this one, rotate, and that's almost in position there. So we just need to move it a little bit. Select all of these guys. Move these guys over so it's positioned there. Rotate them all. Rotate this one this way a little bit more. There we go. Select all of these again. And actually rotate them up this way, if anything. And then rotate all of them together, and then I can move them all at once. So there we go, getting there. The hands are the most complex part of it, as you can probably tell. That's probably a little too exaggerated there. Whoops, undo that. It's probably just a little too misbehaving. It's probably just a little bit exaggerated here, so I want to change that a little bit. The whole thing, there we go. Bring this back this way as well. Alright. Rotate them all. It's centered in there pretty well. It's not looking too bad. Bring this down a bit maybe. And perhaps actually move it down just a little bit. Alright, there we go. That's not bad. Okay. I think it's going to be okay that way. Perhaps rotating it a little bit also would be a bad idea. There we go. That's a little better. Okay, good. Alright, we don't want to get too fixated on this stuff. Alright, so we'll need to adjust the width overall of these fingers so that they're wide enough to handle all 3 of these fingers. Okay, of this finger, I should say. And we're going to adjust the length of each one of these so that they are also going to be right about where the joints are at each one of the ends of each one of these segments. And then finally, this one right here. Probably should bring this one out just a little bit farther. Make this one a little shorter. So let's see how these segments look. I think this one could be a little bit longer. And this one could be a little shorter. So they're fairly even. In fact, the longest one really is typically is the first joint here. And then this one's the next longest one. And then this one's typically the shortest one, so try to be true to life somewhat here. Alright. And that's fitting pretty good right now. Move that down just a tiny bit. I think the width of this, so depth of this could be a little bit more. There we go. Okay, I think we're doing pretty good. Let's make the hand, the depth of the hand also just a little bit more. There, now we're talking. Okay, not too bad. So now that we have this part done, all we have to do is select, once again, a bone on this side. Copy, select a bone on the opposite side, and paste. And there we have it. So we're set there. Now let's do the head, and we'll be done with this section. With the rigging, fitting the rig inside of our character. And then we're going to add a skin modifier. So let's get in here and let's sort of get this head into position first. And what I mean by that is we want to get it rotated so that we're looking sideways at it, and get it set so that it's pretty much going to just scale out, and then we'll adjust I was going to say vertebrae, but the neck joints, part of the vertebrae, and adjust those. So let's move this forward a little bit. Let's scale our head by adjusting the height. And that shows us that we need to bring our neck joint down a little bit, so we'll adjust let's just do it this way. Let's grab our neck joint there. Okay, and then we can move this down. There we go. That'll work out pretty good. All right, now then we can adjust the width. Oops, get the width going already. Width, and adjust the length. And so that's going to need to come back this way just a little bit. There we go. And we'll see how that looks in general. That's just about the way it should be. It's probably the height is just a little too much, so let's bring the height down just a little bit here. And then I can bring it down. There we go. Okay, that's just about what we're after. Okay, so let's hope that our skin modifier doesn't give us any trouble. That's generally where we have most of our adjustments. And then we'll see where we're going from there. So let's go ahead and apply a skin modifier. So what we need to do now is to unfreeze our character mesh. Cancel. Unfreeze all. And select our character mesh. We're going to put it right above the editable poly, our skin modifier. And so we'll get that message. And yes, the unwrap UVW modifier is giving us a caution, which is okay because we're not going to do anything to the editable poly. I'm going to select yes, and we're just going to add the skin modifier right above the editable poly. And so we just go down to skin and apply that. Okay. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to select, we're going to actually go ahead and add bones. Okay. And the bones that we're going to be adding, of course, are the cat rigging bones that we just put into our character here, or placed in our character. But we're going to add them to the skin modifier so that they're communicating to the bones, so that the bones are communicating with the skin modifier and vice versa. All right, so we just click on Add, and then when you get this display box here, you want to click on Display and make sure that Display Children is checked. If it's not, check it. If it is, then great. And then go down to skateboarder pelvis, because that's sort of like the center of mass. I mentioned that earlier, and that's what we want to select. I'm opening that up so you can see the other major parts of the character. There's a lot of other smaller things inside of here and so forth. It's just a big hierarchy of the linked objects. But we select that, and if all of those get selected, then we're in good shape, and we can just simply say select. And look at the list inside of here. That's to the motion panel here with our rigs base selected. We're going to apply a cat motion layer, which is what this is right here, the very bottom one. You have to hold your mouse button down to keep this there so you can select it. Okay, you let go and it's selected, and then turn it on. And there you go. This is what I expected to see here. And the reason why I expected that is just from experience. The feet are so close to each other that the envelopes for the different segments are affecting on this side are affecting this side. Okay, and we need to fix that, and it's just a simple matter of fixing it. So I'm going to go. We're going to take care of that right now. So now we have to go back to the modify panel and make sure that we're selecting our character now, because that's the skin modifier we're going to be adjusting. And don't worry about this wonky leg. And we go back there and say yes, and we're going to turn on edit envelopes. Where it's in the select section here under edit envelopes is vertices and envelopes. We're actually selecting the main portion of the envelope here, but all it's really going to do is show the vertices. So what we have here is one section, one envelope, so to speak, selected right now. But and these are all fine right here. The envelope should be affecting this part of this foot, but not this part of this foot. And by having select vertices selected, I'm able to go in with my, whoops, undo that. Sorry, get my select tool, okay, and let's go back and select that one again, and go in here and make a selection of the vertices on this side that are being affected by the envelope on the opposite side over here, and then go to our ABS effect, weight properties, and just type a 0 in there. And watch the magic. Okay, see how that fixed that? These are not any longer being affected by that particular envelope. So let's go with this one over here now. Select that one. Let's get out of here, and there we go. Select that envelope. And it looks like there's like 2 little vertices over here being affected by that. So let's just go ahead and take care of those. It's not being affected very much, but it's still there. Okay. And what's actually more than just 2, so that's good. So we got all those, and we want to go back over here again and set that to 0, and that makes those undone. All right, now let's do the same thing with this part, this foot, and see the same thing is happening. This envelope is affecting this foot. We don't want that. So go up here. All right, and I may have missed some over here before, but you want to select all those, make sure that all of these are not being selected. Let's just select the whole dang foot. Can't hurt. That envelope is pretty big, and so yeah, see, it was affecting all this stuff over here. So let's go ahead and set that to 0. Okay, there we go. And now this one is fixed. Let's go back to this one and make sure that I got all the ones that should have been affected before taken care of. Yeah, see, I've got these look like they're not affected, so they're already set to 0. You can tell by just selecting them and looking over here. Oh yeah, so it's selected to set to 0. So good. So now we're going to do this one. Let's get out of here. Select it. There we go. And it looks like once again there's a few on this foot, just like on the other one. I'm just going to go over here, and most of these were already set to 0, but because by default, it's because they weren't being affected by the envelope. Just to be on the safe side. So now we're in good shape on that part. Now we have some other issues. If we rotate around a little bit here, there are some other envelopes, like right there is an envelope. And that envelope, let's just scrub through this a little bit. It's probably somewhat affecting, maybe not so much. Not so much, not so bad. Yeah, we're in better shape than I thought we were. Okay, so because there have been times in the past when I've seen this happen, and yeah, there's a few here that are being affected, I think. So let's scrub this back so that it's kind of there. Yeah, let's just make sure that they're. I don't know. I think it's all right. It's all right. How about this one? Well, it looks like it's really just affecting that foot. Same with that one, seems to be okay. Okay, good. So let's do this. Let's go with this leg here, and it looks like, yeah, I think there might be a few. Go back to the front view here, zoom in real tight, and it's a lot easier to see when you have it looking at it straight on. These vertices right here are being affected by that, and we don't want that, so we're going to go ahead and fix those. There we go. And some of those were already at 0. And so go back into here, set it to 0, boom, fixed, taken care of. Let's go over here, do the same thing. There are a few over here on this side that are being affected. And so we can see how that works. You have to be careful not to get some of the ones that are supposed to be affected from the other. See what happens when we set this to 0. If you see something strange happen, right away you should notice that, you know, it didn't, whoops, wrong place. Nope, got it, 0. Oh, okay, there we go. Looks like we're fine there. Okay, good. Now let's keep working up the character on this leg area here, because some of this leg area, you can tell that some of this stuff is going to affect the other one, and they're actually affecting the shirt a little bit. That stuff is okay. We need to have some overlap of things, because that's what causes the nice blending, and we don't get this funky pinching and stuff of you know, things going on with our character in places. I'll show you some blending that happens that's natural. If we go into the arm area, we definitely want to see some of the vertices right here in this elbow on this other limb here being affected by this particular envelope. Same thing here. We want that to overlap a little bit, because that's important to create a natural smooth blending, and even kind of like when it bends, it doesn't give you a funny kink and look all wrong. Okay, so I'm going to say that if I was to hide let's go ahead and get out of here for a second now. Let's go here and turn off edit envelopes. Let's select our character and let's I'm going to freeze it just for a moment here. Freeze selection, animation right away here. Let's go back into perspective view. Let's get out of the animation by selecting the base, going to the motion tab or panel, and turning off the animation. And I'm just going to delete the motion, because we don't need it in the motion layer. So we're going to get rid of this motion layer by clicking on the delete layer button right here, big X, red X. Okay, there we go. So now we're good to go. And now I can select, so this is, I think this is, yeah, it's frozen good. So I can select my character. I'm just going to change this to easy selection here. Select my whole character rig. What we want to do now is, I want to create a selection set for our cat rig. And I'm going to say, I'm going to call it cat rig all. Okay, and hit return so it sticks. So when I want to go back and then I want to select our cat rig, it's real easy to do. Okay, I might just want to select just the base, but probably not. So right now I want to select it all. Real easy to do with this, and then hide selection. So, all right. Anyway, so we've got our character set up so that it should deform just fine when we apply some biped motion capture file to it by way of animation. And ready to do some animation pretty soon. Okay.